الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the world, and blessings be on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family and his companions. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to all. It's probably good morning to some of the viewers because we have viewers from all over the world. Welcome to today's webinar entitled Transformation in Education for Global Leadership. Let us begin this session by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. I would like to, first of all, acknowledge the presence of our respected President, Datuk Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar. Thank you, Datuk, for making the time to be with us this afternoon. The University Management Committee, Datuk Rahim and also Datuk Zailan. Associate Professor Dr. Azam Osman, Director, Alumni Relations Division, the organizer of the program. Professor Dr. Amir Akramin, Director, Office of International Affairs, the co-organizer of the program. The moderator, Professor Dr. Muhammad Aslam Hanif. The global discussants, Professor Datuk Dr. Nur Inayah Yaakob from Malaysia. Dr. Haria Hal Islami, who will be joining us from Jakarta. Dr. Omar Jah, who is joining us from Bangladesh. Brother Ali Kasa from Brisbane, Australia, and Brother Ernest Yelman from Istanbul, Turkey. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of our fellow alumni from all over the world and the participants. Thank you so much for joining us today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I know everyone is excited to listen to the discussion. But before I hand over the floor to the moderator, let me briefly introduce him. Professor Dr. Muhammad Aslam Hanif is like our big brother. He belongs to the first batch of alumni who graduated in 1987. He then went on to do his master's in economics in University of Malaya before pursuing his PhD in the UK. He is now teaching at the Kuliah of Economics and Management Sciences, Iium, an expert in Islamic economics, I must say. Professor Aslam also has a hobby of collecting awards from Fulbright to Ismail Al-Faruqi. So ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, please welcome Prof. Aslam.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Sister Aisha, for the introduction, and congratulations to the Alumni Relations Unit for organizing this webinar. I really am very happy to be with all of you today. And according to my numbers, we have with us at the moment about 160 participants who have joined us from all over the world, together with another 30 or so in the Senate meeting room. So we are starting off, alhamdulillah, with about 200 people with us today. So welcome everybody to this session. This first webinar, and I'm calling it the first webinar because I'm assuming that there's going to be many more to come, is actually a series that is going to, inshallah, be a series of webinars to celebrate IIUM. And what I mean by celebrating IIUM is the fact that I think for more than 30, almost coming to 40 years, 37 years now, we have been in existence, and since 87 we have been producing graduates, and these graduates have actually made a very big impact, not only in Malaysia but globally. And so I think one of the purposes of this webinar series is going to be to get in touch with all of you all over the world and to have you join us in future sessions so that we can actually together celebrate IIUM's contribution to the Ummah. I think it's been a big contribution. We may not have captured it yet. So this webinar is a good point, a good thing for us to do in that respect. Our speaker today, our president of IIUM, Dr. Daud Bakar, is no stranger to us. I think many of you would remember Dr. Daud Bakar when he was with us in ICOL from the 90s, I think maybe 1990. He was doing his PhD and then joined as a faculty member and was with us until the end of the 90s, I think. 2002, yeah? 2005, sorry. And then he left to extend the leadership not only in academia, but to put his knowledge into practice. And as somebody who has known him for 3 decades now, I can safely say that he has been one of the more outstanding individuals that has gone from IIUM outside to the real world. There is a long CV that could be read, but please read on your own. I would just like to maybe share with you on a personal note, something that in a way represents our speaker today, but at the same time tells you how important it is for all of us, whether we are alumni of the university or even if we are staff of the university, the importance of lifelong learning. And I think our speaker today really represents that. I won't forget, somewhere I think in mid-90s, after coming back with his PhD from the UK, and of course in the area of Sharia, I remember we used to have discussions about Islamic banking, Islamic finance in Malaysia, and at that point in time, he told me he would like to join some programs of study to learn about conventional law, conventional economics and finance, because you cannot talk about Islamic finance or Islamic banking without also knowing the existing system. And I think he has done that. If I'm not mistaken, he joined University Malaya and earned first degree in law. Yeah, after doing Sharia law for many years, he went to UM. And I do not know how many numerous courses on economics and finance that he has probably gone, attended formally, yeah, so with qualifications. And I consider that to be something that is very rare. It's not usually that you find someone who has his own area of discipline and yet wants to do many other things. And I think that's the spirit of our discussion today. Transformation in education for global leadership. So certainly our speaker today is a global leader. Yeah? So if you read his CV, you will find out that the company that he has established, Amani, is not only something in Malaysia, but has gone global. And he himself is a global figure in the Islamic banking and finance area. He is known worldwide as an authority. Yeah? He's written books, but not only has he written books, he has actually put those things into practice. All right. So with that few words, I will introduce each discussant as we move on, rather than introducing everybody now. With those few words, let me very warmly welcome our speaker for today, our president of IIUM, Datuk Daud Bakar.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah alladhi bi ni'matihi tatimmu salihat wa bihudahu tastaqimul umur. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyil huda war rahmah, amma ba'd. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Respected Professor Dr. Muhammad Aslam Hanif, the moderator for today's session. Respected Yang Berbahagia Datuk Rahim, the Director of MSD, and respected Yang Berbahagia Datuk Zailan, the Director of Finance. Dr. Azam from Alumni Relation Division, ladies and gentlemen, and before that, all the global discussant, thank you for agreeing to donate some of your time to be with us this afternoon. I'm sure you are having a very tight schedule, but thank you very much for taking time off to be not only with us in the campus, but also with your own other colleagues around the globe. And that shows how are we connected to one another and how important that we keep talking to one another and how important and significant to be wired and connected either physically or digitally in this modern world of new norms of communication and interaction and forming the ideas and forming the new network of alumni, IIU alumni. I think I need to congratulate the Alumni Relation Division for organizing a very timely event. For us to have the platform, it looked very simple that someone, Prof. Aslam is here, myself is here, but it's not about people talking to one another, it's about coming together to reaffirm our togetherness. And this is something that we need to do continuously and to keep up the momentum. In Islam, it is easy to do good things, but it is very difficult and very hard to maintain the momentum, to have the istiqamah, fastaqim kama umir, that we were ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep the momentum. And keeping the momentum is one of the challenges of the Islamic world and beyond. Today's session is quite heavy, I have to say. We have very mouthful kind of topic, and we have 4 heavy keywords: transformation, education, global, and leadership. I'm not so sure whether we can be, we are able to fulfill the dimension of these 4 keywords. Yesterday, I was having a session at the MATRADE, the Malaysia External Trade Development Corporation, and I was on the panel, first panel after the Deputy Minister's session. I was put on the panel with Tan Sri Andrew Sheng, there's a great economist in Malaysia and beyond, and Datuk Karim, whom I consider as my icon, role model, the founder of Serba Dynamic, who has transformed his company from a very small into a medium, now becoming a GLC, becoming public listed companies, and one of the best company in the history of Malaysia during the COVID, making good profit compared to the other companies. You put aside the Top Glove and Harta Lega because they are the one who sell the glove at the moment, but the rest of the companies are not having good time, but not this Serba Dynamic because he has gone overseas. He has extensively gone for M&A, mergers acquisition in Turkey, in Kazakhstan, in Europe. During the difficult time, everything became cheap, and he started to accumulate the assets around the globe. And we were talking about transforming crisis into opportunities. Again, the word transformation was popping up in yesterday's session. And today is about transformation as well, as if everyone is talking about transformation because the idea of transforming oneself is sometimes not that visible. And the topic today is try to challenge everyone, your heart, your brain, your mind, your psyche, which is more important than your brain, to really take the first initiative to transform yourself. Because if you cannot transform yourself, you can't transform others. And this is something that I wanted to put the foundation in the early part of my presentation. So transformation is a very active word. You have to transform for you to transform others. You cannot be transforming others without you being transformed from one level to another. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm being guided in this 25 to 30 minutes session before we can listen to our colleagues, our alumni from all over the world on this topic. I'm sure Prof. Aslam, we are giving them the opportunity not only to comment on my speech, but also to relate their own day-to-day experiences and how could they make an impact on our discussion today. So it's very much, yeah.
Can I just intervene? I told him I'm going to intervene from time to time, but the reason to intervene is to tell everybody on wherever you are, if you have anything to comment, even on the speaker's discussion, or you would like to ask a question, please go through the chat, put it in, and we may put it directly to the speaker and to the discussants while they're presenting. So please feel free to make your comment, of course, relevant comment, and we can then put it to the speaker there then. Thank you very much, and sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Prof. Aslam. Yeah, if I may start off, looking into the history, before the coming of Islam in the historical, educational environment of knowledge in the Jewish community and Christianity community, knowledge is very important, discipline is very important, but the education was meant for elites in the society. It was meant for the royal family members and the priests, the religious personality. In fact, even for religious authorities, if you have visited many libraries in Europe until today, Spain, German, and UK, where I studied for my PhD, when you go down to the library, still some sections are still closed. They don't open the knowledge for everyone to access the knowledge. And that was the culture of education in the West before the coming of Islam. When Islam came to this world, knowledge was meant for everyone. In fact, the knowledge was put in the mosque before we had the big libraries. The knowledge was made accessible to the community, unlike in the West until Shakespeare came, or Charles Dickens came in England in 17th and 16th century of AD. They started to promote that we have to train our young people, giving them public education. Public education was made accessible and available in Islamic tradition from day one of Islam. That shows how education should be made affordable, perhaps, accessible, perhaps, and this is the challenge of our Islamic communities. Are we making our education accessible to everyone in every corner of our Islamic communities? So this is a very quite important historical fact I wanted to share with you. And education is the heart of the civilization. And no wonder that the first ayah was revealed. It's Iqra. I wanted to appeal to you. You need to widen the meaning of Iqra. Even our university, as you speak, we have the logo of Iqra in our official logo. We have not internalized the very meaning of Iqra. What is the very meaning of Iqra? To recite, or to ponder, or to what? This is something that we have not done, I mean, to the fullest extent, if you like. And we have seen the decline. This is how Islamic civilization, was developed in the initial part of Islamic civilization. After 800 years or 900 years toward 1,000 years, we have seen the decline coming to our Islamic community because the education, the knowledge was no longer transformative. If you have read many commentaries by the current scholars, even by the classical scholars during that time, they were saying that the knowledge was centered upon repeating what the great scholar has said in the past. And that was the culture of, if you like, Hawashi and the Hawashi and Hawashi, the commentaries on the commentaries on the commentaries. And that does not make the knowledge transformative. It makes the knowledge informative and perhaps too technical, because you need someone to explain the meaning of the summary of the summary, make it more complicated. Knowledge is not about being complicated. Even in our teaching at the classroom, we cannot seem to be complicating the knowledge. We have to make the knowledge easy to understand. I hope when you have studied in this university, great university, Our lecturers in the past, they are great scholars. They have made the knowledge easy to understand. The knowledge was revealed to be simplified and to be taught and to be transmitted and to be shared and to be extended to everyone with a very easy way of understanding. And somehow the scholars, if I can say, in Arabic, ma'ahtiram al-shadid, with the extreme apology, we have complicated the knowledge for 200 years or 300 years. So we have made our knowledge complicated. And this is not the transformative version of knowledge. The easier we write the knowledge, the better. I have read a manuscript recently, about 600 pages, yet to be published. Of course, I have put the AI and big data in my Maqasid book, ready to be published, inshallah, Prof. Aslam. I have sent the book to one great scholar in USA. I have been with him for the last 30 years. He has been trained well in Pakistan, in Europe, in Middle East, great scholar, great scholar. And I sent to him, and he refused to review my manuscript because he was saying, your manuscript on Maqasid al-Sharia has no technical language. It's very much layman perspective. I told him there are many books written on Maqasid al-Sharia, more than 200, 300 books. If you pick up one of these books, when you read the book, when you are done with the book, you don't understand anything because it's too much complicated. I wanted to not dilute, to democratize the very insight and meaning of Maqasid al-Sharia. But anyhow, I was laughing at him, saying, well, since you are not in mood of reviewing my book, it doesn't matter, but I've tried to make you happy. Let me publish the first book for the layman, for people on the street. In fact, I was saying the book is for every Muslim from Manila to Sao Paulo. Everyone can pick up the book. And I will come back with the second book, make it shorter, more complicated, so that you can enjoy the knowledge, but not the public. Okay, so you have seen the decline came to our society when we make the knowledge or education or university, madrasa, very complicated, very ritual, if you like, no insight of the knowledge, and that will not transform neither the student nor the scholar. I studied in Kuwait University in Sharia, 83 all the way to 88. In the first year of program, we studied the ibadat, part of the Sharia, ibadat from the purity to prayer, fasting, and whatnot. The lecturers and the students, we enjoyed very much. We were excited to know something new. Something that we knew already and wanted to know more. In the second year, we studied about munakahat, the marital affairs. The lecturers enjoyed it, the student didn't enjoy because too early for them. But when we came to the third year, we studied mu'amalat, contemporary mu'amalat, mudaraba, musharaka, and what have you. Neither the lecturers nor the student understood the subject because we were not connected to the real world during that time, 80, 85, 86. So this is something that the knowledge was great by great scholar, but no one was able to relate to the knowledge. If you cannot make the knowledge relatable to you, you cannot transform yourself, neither the society. So you have to make the knowledge relatable to you, something that you can make related to you in your own mindset, in your own thinking process, and so on and so forth. So colonization came in, we didn't produce a good weaponry, and we were defeated in 1 or 2 days across Muslim countries because we cannot fight them, because we didn't have sufficient and the state of art of weaponry. So we were defeated, except in Turkey, they have developed a lot of weaponry so they can sustain for many, many years until the collapse of Ottoman Empire in the last century, 1924 or 1914. they collapsed because of so many other things, but they survived for many, many years. But the other Muslim countries, including Malaysia, Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Middle East, they were colonized without any difficulties. Easy to be colonized because education was not there, the technology was not there. So don't talk about transformation. During that time, we need to talk about survival. So the survivability is the issue for about 400 years in the Islamic world. Alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, for you who have joined the session just now, welcome to this session. This is the second session. We have had the welcoming remark by Prof. Aslam. I'm going to give my own thought on the topic of transformation in education for global leadership. This is my second part of the presentation. In the modern history, we have seen when we were grew up, Prof. Aslam and I, we were excited about the product coming from Europe during our time, the camera and the cars and all the gadget. Anything coming from UK, from German, from Italy, we were excited during our time, 70s, 80s, because Europe was the producing nation and they invested a lot in R&D. R&D means? Are you sure? In Muslim world means rest and die. It happened in Malaysia in 70s or even 60s, even 80s. If you're not performing, you are sent to RN, research and development for you to retire until people are done with you. So R&D was not part of our culture. So European, after a while, they left or they have abandoned the struggle for R&D. Japanese came to the stage of the world, then Korean, then Chinese. When Chinese came to the surface, people were laughing at them. The product not good, up to the mark. Yes, they started with that kind of products, but nowadays you have all type of product from the 5-star all the way to 1-star kind of product because they were able to absorb the knowledge. Having said that, if you have studied the history of Mao Zedong, he has cancelled off education for about 50 years so that the people are not well educated to challenge the government. So they were deprived from education. In the West, they put education or they give education for the royal family and some people. In China, they ban everything, even for the communist members for that matter. So, but somehow after 50 years, people came back because they got the desire to build the civilization and to transform the community. I mean, to fast forward the whole history, Japan came in, Korean, South Korean came in, and Chinese came in. Alhamdulillah, from that perspective, can balance the technology of the world, and Europe has gone. Europe has gone, to be honest. You look into GDP of Europe, the best performer in Europe without the German GDP that can bring the index of the GDP of Europe, I think the whole thing will collapse easily. In our society, we have lost to the superpower of European, and we were colonized. Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Pakistan, and almost every Islamic state community of the world. So I'm not going to go into the detail of the history, but the history is very important to reflect one important point: what happened to our education system in the past 400 years for Islamic calendar, or from the 14th and 15th century of AD, when we were colonized. It was about 8 to 9th century of AD of Hijrah. Then we have seen that the scholars were excited about their knowledge. They were not excited about transforming the society into a better society. And that was the mistake. I have some conclusion to make to the end of my session, but no harm for me to share with you at the current stage. You know, the rise of any nation will take years and decades and centuries. The decline will also take years and decades and centuries. So don't be distracted that we are doing something good, because if we miss the right formula and recipe for the rice, we're going to suffer for many years to come. So because the decline is taking long process, even the rice will take long process. And that was the history of the world. Rome was not built in one day, as the proverb goes. Okay, now the issue of leadership, global leadership, and how to bring back the global leadership to our Islamic world. Though we are the alumni of the university, when you go back to your, respective communities, you have the duty. We honor your duty. We are proud of you, our alumni. We are sure that the little that we have done to educate you, to inspire you, when you are there to serve the nation, you have to do the utmost level of your energy, your mindset, and your perseverance to give the impact to the society. And I have few points, and allow me, Prof. Aslam, to share some of these points, about 7 or 8 points, some tips of how to move forward in order to bring back the global leadership, or perhaps to bring back the transformative education to our respective communities. It doesn't matter where you are, the transformative education is a must. First and foremost, I think it is appropriate and it is quite logical to start from the pain points of our community. We need to be able to diagnose what are the pain points of our community among the youngsters, among the aging population, among the educated, among the Western-based educated community, or too conservative Islamic religious education. So we need to understand their pain point, because everyone has their own pain point. Without understanding the challenges on the ground, we cannot offer a more vibrant and robust transformative education system. And this is the difficult thing to do. Many Islamic countries I have seen, this is the last thing they wanted to know and wanted to do, to identify the pain points of the society. Because as if you are opening your own problem. You say, well, I have the problem. I have the problem of youngsters in Malaysia, they don't like to read the book, for example. But what is the solution? If they don't like to read the book, perhaps we can make the book in animated version. We cannot succumb to the problem. Well, our youngsters, again, in my own world, they don't like to plan for their financial. They are good in spending, but they don't know about insurance, takaful, investment. They have zero knowledge. People don't care about the financial planning. Our old folks in Malaysia, I'm not sure about other countries, the closer are they to retire, the more they borrow the money from the banks and from the cooperative societies. And this is a big problem in Malaysia. That's why the data shows when they retire, in the first 6 months, they will withdraw the money from the employee provident fund. They will spend the money for whatever borrowing, and they are left without any financial aids for the next 20 years and 30 years. And what makes the issue more challenging, people tend to live longer. People tend to live longer. When we have set up our provident fund in the 60s or even before that, we were hoping people die at the age of 70 or 65, hoping. I mean, quote and unquote. But people survive to 75 and 80. So the data does not commensurate with the facts on the ground. So we got stuck. And why we got stuck? Because we didn't train our people to manage their finance properly, because they tend to live longer due to the technological advance in health. People tend to live longer, and they got stuck because they got no money, and there are many issues facing the community. Our colleagues, you would agree with me that you take any report from the Global Trend report coming year in, year out for the last how many years, the four big challenges facing all the communities, Islamic or otherwise. Number one is the aging population. Even in Malaysia, 2030, 60% are aging population, 60 and above. Now it's half, the 30 and below, about 50%, and the other 50% are aging population. But 2030 comes, then we have different thing. We have to have houses with lift. If people cannot, so the new houses, we need the new houses. How we transform the society, I'm not going to lecture on that. This is the matter of social, economic development. Then the issue of aging population. Number two, the issue of urbanization. People tend to migrate to the big cities. You have seen the case of Nigeria. A lot of report about what is happening in Lagos. And this is something supported by the data of the world. By 2030, 50% of the GDP of the world will be driven by the urban. The problem, the urban is not ready to receive the flood of the people coming to the urban. No affordable houses, no affordable, services for them. Transportation is not that up to the standard. The issue of the crime, the medical treatment, and we have seen how could we manage urbanization without putting the right structure. And the university, like our university, should think ahead, and that's why we need to put the pinpoint in place. If you cannot do that, we are shooting the target in the darkness. We don't know what are we bringing our society to the future. I think enough is enough on the pinpoint. There are many other facts and data I can share with you. Perhaps I can stop at that point. We need to be courageous enough to extract and to put on the table the whole list or the pinpoint. Even Datuk Zailan and Datuk Rahim in the future, if we are still around, the issue of student scholarship, issue of affordability. In fact, for me, the pinpoint, I could be wrong. I wish I'm right. I think our education, we spend about 6 years for foundation, or 5 years from foundation to the first degree. It's too long because things has changed already. We have to make it shorter. We have to make it more flexible and more robust, because education, the level of our youngsters, our kids and children, they are faster, smarter than us. So we shouldn't be using the psycho, or they call it the psyche of our generation to our current generation. So 5 and 6 years is too long and too expensive on the government. Number two, I'm coming to the second point. We need to be quicker all the time. As many people don't like my statement. Everywhere I go, even in education circle, I say, well, we have to be faster. We have to be quicker. Instead of training our student in 6 years, can we train them in 3 years or even 1 year? Some courses and programs, there's no need to undergo 170 credit hours or 150 credit hours. I'm not sure about your respective kuliah. For me, I don't believe in something more than 125 credit hours as a person. You are killing the human aspect of a student. But perhaps the university and the ministry have different point of view. Perhaps we should look into that. We are training our students to become a thinking human, not an informative human. Information can be gotten, can be extracted from everywhere nowadays by click of button. But they come to the university to be trained to think for themselves. And to think for themselves, we don't need 150 credit hours. Even 50 credit hours would be good enough for me, with some basic knowledge and what have you. So the third point, more impactful. We can do so many things, we can do so many programs here and there, but are they impactful? Are they really changing the landscape of our community? Or we don't bother to ask ourselves, are our program impactful? either in hard sciences or in the soft sciences at the university, from engineering, from the hard sciences all the way to soft sciences like Arabic and Arabian knowledge and human sciences. Fourth point, less resources. Dato' Zailan will like this one. We need to minimize the resources, financial or otherwise. We cannot afford to be believing that we have all the resources. That was the nostalgia. Government is having hard time to, prepare everything for the public universities. We need to cut the resources. We need to minimize the resources. We need to, to optimize the cost and expenses. In the banking sector, we have few banks in Malaysia. I have seen they call it income to expenses ratio, income measured against the expenses of the bank. The best performing bank in Malaysia in terms of resources are the Chinese bank, because they know how to cut the expenses. Even the toilet tissue, they will monitor. They will put the GPS to make sure that people don't overuse. Then they can save the cost. That's why the average in Malaysia for the income to expense ratio is about 50%. The better bank in Malaysia, they can manage even 37 to 40%. But the other bank, they can go even to 67%, which is, they are big, but the way they spend is not that up to the standard. So we need to see how are we, this university, behaving in that manner from the fee generation and the expenses we spend to manage this university. The fifth element, if you allow me, we cannot be working in a silo anymore. We need to be working using all the connectivity and networking. I call here jurisprudence of leverage. Jurisprudence of leverage. I'm not sure about the Arabic term. Fiqhu al-istifada. We need to leverage on others. Though the others are not with us, though the others are not necessarily with us or in support of our vision and mission, but we need to be cleverer, we need to be more brilliant, to be connected to the others, like we can connect to United Nations, we can connect to World Bank, we can connect to the other NGOs, though they are not necessarily in Islamization and integration of knowledge, but they have some commonalities that we can tap to their expertise. And the sixth element, understanding the psyche and narrative of the secular world. We have not been trained that much in this university during my time. I got to go out to the secular world. Here we are living in a very idealistic world, very idealistic. Not many lecturers, of course, the students are not exposed to the real narrative of the modern world, secular world, in terms of economics, distribution, poverty issue, gender issue, and many other issues in the society. I hope you can pick up the point. I'm cautious about the time that I have. I have a few other points to conclude by 3:15, inshallah. And the last one, I was intrigued by the statement of George Makdisi in his book, The Rise of Colleges, when he described how the education was performed in the past in the Baghdad, in the Syrian, Aleppo, in the Damascus, and Zaytuna, and many other great universities. In his book, it's good for the student, for our student, our lecturers to pick up and to read the book from cover to cover, because facts based on the curriculum being put in place, the rise of colleges. And he said, in a nutshell, the whole idea of education in Islam is to create what he called the generation of al-mutafanninun, multi-skillful, al-mutafanninun. The great student or scholar of Islam is someone mutafannin. He is very much multitasking. He is a poet. He's perhaps a sermon. He can give a good sermon. He can be a good writer. He can be a good comedian. He can be a good society activist. He can be this. He can be that. This is what perhaps we are lacking at the moment. I'm sure that we can have some discussion on that. My last word, Prof. Aslam, I don't want to take a longer time than what is necessary. We need to transform from a very basic education from, if I may use the word, traditional education to informative education to insightful education. We are very insightful, we are very excited, but they are just at the level of being, being entertained, but not transformative. So traditional, informative, insightful, and transformative education. Is that all? Not really. Every discipline of life is moving toward nano. We need to make our education into nano-based technology, where the knowledge can be seen in the tangible world. Let's say in nano medicine, when you put the medicine can go all the way to the deeper side of your organ. This is the nanotechnology. Sometimes you put something on your skin, it can cover the illness, it can cover the germ on the surface, but it cannot go down. So nanotechnology in economics, in law, in everything, even in the Quran, we have to be nano-driven in the future. That would be the future of our transformative education. With that, I would like to end my presentation. Give me great pleasure to be invited. I would like to thank again all the colleagues, the global discussion. I look forward to listening to your comment and from other colleagues around the world. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for supporting the university. Let's make the university a great university for the next 100 years, and we have to believe in that. This is the place where we can make the knowledge living and kicking and transforming our society for the benefit of Islamic community until the day of the world, inshallah. Thank you very much, Prof. Aslam and the university. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much, Dr. Daud, for your, I think, almost perfect to 30 minutes time. You timed yourself perfectly. Just while we are absorbing this, just a couple of minutes to try and give some of the main points. Transformation has to start with your own self. And I think this is what, in a way, IIUM hopes that the time you spend in IIUM does, to transform yourself. And so it's not only the knowledge that you get from the formal classroom, but it's also the individual transformation. So that's very important. And that's where education plays a very key role. And just by chance, before coming to this, I was just going through some of my little treasure chest that I have in the room, and I found this First World Conference on Islamic Muslim Education, 1977 recommendations. And I remember in the early years in IIUM, Prof. Kamal and some of the other lecturers would always be reminding us about what this document wanted to do. And although subsequently Prof. Kamal has given a slightly different view about the establishment of IIUM, this conference plays a very important role in what we are trying to do, and that is to change and to transform education. I don't know about all of you, but certainly in the 80s when we were studying, whenever we told anybody that we are from IIUM, everybody thought that we are going to become imam and studying Quran, and so when we tell them that we are doing economics, they are quite surprised. And I'm sure for those of you who are with us, and if you're from the science faculty or engineering faculty, even more confused, right? People will get Islamic University, engineering. So really this idea of transforming education, IIUM has that as our goal. So it's very important that we all remember that. So transformative, not just informative, I think important point. And then about what to do, a whole list of things. We have to be able to know what the problem is, right, so that we can provide the solutions. We need to do it in the shortest time possible, sometimes not necessarily, many years. It has to be impactful. And I think this is what now the university seems to be focusing a lot on this. How does IIUM make impact, especially in society? So we are now talking about IIUM playing a very big role in giving inputs globally on the Sustainable Development Goal agenda of the United Nations. We don't have the resources, as much as we would like. Let me, on behalf of the Alumni Relations Unit, please ask all alumni, please donate to the university. right? Because the government is not giving us as much as we would like to get. So we would need support from our alumni, definitely. That's the way it has been also in many other countries. We can't work in silos. We have to work together. We have to leverage, and I like that point, even leverage on people who may not agree with us, right? So how do we actually, make ourselves present outside, work together with others, as long as we can benefit from this? I think this is a very important point. We need to understand the secular mind and the secular world, right? If we are overly focused on just our own graduates and we live in our own cocoon, we don't know how other people think. And I think this is a very important point. And the last point is to learn lessons about how colleges succeed. We need to create graduates who are not only educated, but also able to have skills, to be able to multitask, I believe, and that's very important. Now, okay, with that brief summary, we now move to our discussions. It is I think it's just coincidence. We had a long list, but it seems that we have a domination of ICOL, Ahmad Ibrahim Kuliah of Laws. Today, even our speaker was from ICOL. I don't know whether he instructed Alumni Relations Unit. He wants to see all graduates, yeah? So we have, out of our 5, discussants today, 4 are from ICOL. We have our first discussant, Professor Datuk Dr. Noor Inayah Yaakob. I think besides me, she's next on the list, which is no indication of your age, but just to show that the facts speak for themselves. She graduated from ICOL, a double degree, firstly in Bachelor of Laws in 93, and then the Bachelor of Laws Sharia in 94. So certainly a product of the PJ campus. In fact, I think nearly everyone here except for our last discussant, Brother Ernest, I think everybody had a feel of the PJ campus, at least partially, if not fully. Prof. Inayah is one of the early batches. I would consider her to be one of the early batches of IIUM, and she has a very long CV as well. I've had the pleasure of working with her in a very big project on Wakaf and higher education when she was in UKM. Then she moved to Unicel. Now she is the CEO, Rector of College Professional Baitul Mal, which is an educational institution that is owned by the Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan, the Islamic Religious Council of Wilayah Persekutuan, and she is the CEO. And I think we'll let her make her presentation for 10 minutes on this topic of transformation in education. Maybe she wants to give the Malaysian example, or she may have other points. But for the next 10 minutes, the floor is yours, Prof. Inayah, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, wassalati wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Respected Professor Aslam, moderator today, whom I consider my mentor, respected Datuk Dr. Daud, my super mentor, and the rest of I think the officers, the senior officers of IIUM over there, and also the beloved discussants with me, especially my sister Dr. Haria, and also ladies and gentlemen. I totally agree with all the highlighted points raised up by Datuk Dr. Daud just now, especially on the point that he also relate to the current situation of the development of the Japanese research on the aging societies. That's number one. Number two, because I am now destined by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala to lead one small kingdom of higher education institution, but the beneficiary of this institution is Asnaf. Nearly 3,000 of the student of this college is from B40, the poor. Yeah. So I think I better share how transformation of education happened in this unique ecosystem of students, where majority of students here are Asnaf, who receive 1/8 of the zakat proportion. Yeah, it is a big challenge for me, but I think because of the barakah of ilm that I receive from IIUM in both discipline of law and conventional law, because of that title of IUM itself, I thankful and grateful to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala and all my sifus and muallimun wa muallimat. I have been appointed as visiting scholar by Kyoto University, then was seconded to Oxford University on commercialization of research product, because they want to know how research product of a university as a transformation of education in the context of commercialization of ROI other than dollars and cents. So they want to see how human resource or human capital is considered as ROI for Oxford planning of transformation of education last 8 years ago. Then recently, I went to Oman to talk on Wakaf as a paramount education of higher learning in Oman. I was invited by Ministry of Education there to share what Malaysia has strategically care for Wakaf as the main sources of income for a university. As Datuk Dr. Daud also highlighted, we cannot 100% depends on the government's money. Even my college cannot depend on Baitul Mal. Even though we bear the name of Professional College of Baitul Mal, we are advised to find various sources of income other than Baitul Mal, because 1/8 is actually to be distributed to others than fi sabilillah. That's my number one point. And because I want to share about the ecosystem of Asnaf, this is important to me and for the benefit of our discussion, because Asnaf student in Malaysia forms 30% of the whole population, and poor student also form 30% of the world population. That's number one. So how are we going to produce students from this special cohort? What we expect to achieve when these Asnaf went out with the degrees, with a diploma, because we want them to moving out from the ecosystem of life of poor, and we want them to pay zakah. So these are among the paramount objective that we should give serious attention when we deal with majority of students coming from poor background. That's number one. Then, because this special cohort of Asnaf, they don't actually go to looking towards furthering studies into higher education, like degrees, PhD or masters. Yeah, because what they wanted to have is money. They want to help their parents, you see. And when they enter on the very first day of registration, the money, the allowances that we give to them, it is also given to their parents. You know, the student also distributed half. Let's say 300 ringgit, they distributed half to their parents. So we must really look into this matter when we design our curriculum, when we do the method of delivery, when we assess how significant our delivery, because we have to fine tune other than tune imposed by Ministry of Higher Education. You see, because we cannot 100% follow what has been imposed by the higher education Higher Learning Education Ministry. For example, the KPIs of achieving certain standard of research grant, for example, I might put it as number 10 in the list, because number one, how can we help these students to have a better kind of life quality? How can we design a curriculum so that when they go out, they are in the red ocean as well, competing with the rest of 500 private universities in Malaysia and 21 public universities in Malaysia? How can we ensure that the employability of this college is above 80s? I mean, above 80%. So we have done that so far because we have to creatively and innovatively connect and partnership with industry. The program that I think worth sharing is we share our diploma in Wakaf and Zakah with DBKL and the Association of Land of Malaysia. So DBKL has around 5,000 sites only in federal territory. So these sites of building were designed for college students to be there as the assistant surveyor, for strata title management, so they can earn at least 1,000 pocket money from the building of the project itself. So we have to just partner this professional certificate of strata title management with the diploma of Zakah and Wakaf. So this is very novelty in nature, because I think this is number one, because the first time Asnaf student can work in the same time at the same time studying, and given extra allowance for them to check all the technicalities of a particular building, which is also relevant to the diploma of Zakah and Wakaf. That's number one. Number two, we also have a professional program, professional accounting. This professional accounting program is not offered by the public universities like ACCA, LCCI, CAT for professional accounting. Okay, surprisingly, even though they are from Asnaf student, our student has got the best marks for few of the subjects of this professional accounting, and they received gold award at United Kingdom level because the assessment was done by United Kingdom, not by local colleague of lecturers in college. So you see, even though they don't have a special chances like us to have extra tuition when they were young, but if we really take care of what they need for their future life, they will succeed. They will succeed because we have jive the curriculum to suit the current needs, and we bring the professional course to boost their abilities and capabilities, and they have proved that they can. So the professional accounting is become the strategic activities for academic program in the College of Professional Baitul Mal for Asnaf student. If I may highlight, Datuk Daud also mentioned about Surah Al-Alaq Iqra' Bismi Rabbikal Ladzi Khalaq. And because this college, the position of Wakaf, we has been given the status of mutawali by Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan. By virtue of having this wakalah, this license by Majlis Agama Islam, we may also ask the public to give wakaf other than hibah, other than sadaqah, other than infaq to the college, and we can easily get this attention from public because they already see the beneficiary who get the manfaat are all asnaf, the screen asnaf. Okay, so that is the bonus of or leading one of the IPT belongs to asnaf by Majlis Agama. So from that point, why pendidikan asnaf, why the education for asnaf must also be given serious attention when we talk about transformation for education in global platform. Number one, I have a data here on the from the 5th Science and Technology Basic Plan for introduced by Japan for the categories of society. The latest category of society is being trademarked as Society 5.0. What is Society 5.0? Society 5.0 is above the ability of a man on agriculture, on industrial activities, and information related activities. That means that in the context of 5.0, we should humanizing human. So the word is very catchy here. The concept of humanizing human in discussing on transformation of education. Okay, why is it important to humanizing human? Because we want to have the harmonized kind of living out there. Because as you are aware, as now student, with due respect, when they come to a university and when they are given place to stay in the hostel, they keep bringing their upbringing to the university. For example, they're just waiting for the subsidies. Okay, they cannot have a high level of confidence. If anything they find very difficult to follow, they will quit, and they just don't care about whether they get A or B or C or D. So that's why I agree with Dr. Daud just now. The maqasid of having our education is profit and loss or fard kifayah. So for us now, as I am on the notion that is fard kifayah, because they have proved to become a good student when we put them in the ranking of United Kingdom professional practice education. They have proved they can be the best. Okay, but as overall ecosystem of education, we must also bring them to understand the concept of importance of humanizing human. Why? Because now, given the complexity of human activities and the challenges that they face, many negative consequences happen to the societies. And these are people very vulnerable. Okay, so we have to educate them how to humanize them. You see, not so extreme to say how to humanize them, but to ensure that they really understand their role when they go out for working later on. Because in the case of Society 5.0, the aspired type of man is augmented man or improved man. So we have to prepare them to have a characteristic of how to have a taqwa, how to be to surrender yourself to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, how to put yourself in the locus that the more you do, the more you gain for excellence, you are actually gaining the taqarrub ilallah. You are gaining the taqwa. This spiritual is actually 50% above in giving the education for us now. Okay, because we have to nurture them from the beginning. Sometimes on the solah, on the rukun iman, rukun Islam, we have to really ensure that they really know why is that important for them to do this. Okay, and there must also be a mechanism to create a society of 5.0 live in harmonize. So we must ensure that the transformation of education out there might not be the same for us now. We must find one disruptive value for education for us now. For example, I take for example Grab. Grab is a disruptive vehicle that all the taxis gone. These are disruptive values. I myself with my colleague also looking forward to have what is actually a disruptive values for the quality education for this special cohort of poor. Okay, but we are now confident with the level of society of 5.0 to live in harmony, the element of humanizing human, the maqasid what we want to achieve for these students, how to place them at the ranking of world in the professional accounting program that are not offered by other universities. That is the big impact on us. And
Please.
the way
1
of
minute.
thinking also important.
For the first round, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm about to finish now. So that is introductory remarks from me as a leader for one institution of majority coming from poor. With that, Prof. Aslam, I think to kick off, I end my first remarks on that. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Prof. Inaya, for that. Your inputs. I think it's a very important point about the role of universities especially in Muslim societies, where the role of education plays a major factor in social mobility. I think in the Malaysian case, for sure, one of the big reasons why we've been able to, to have the development record that we've had is because of the higher education opportunities that we've made possible. And I think there have been many studies to show that this has been one of the major success factors maybe in the Malaysian case. But in your case, of course, you have an even bigger challenge because, as you mentioned, you have a lot of students that come in this category asnaf. In fact, all public universities, if I'm not mistaken, last year or the year before, there were statistics to show that in nearly all public universities, about 55%, I think, are from B40 category. So public universities in Malaysia are actually doing a major transformation role by providing that education to people who are on the lower economic strata. And of course, your last point about humanizing humanity is very interesting. I think I've heard this word, even our current Tan Sri Rector is talking about Humaniversity, yeah, and that's what he likes to talk about, and I think we will be hearing from him maybe in future sessions. Okay, so with that, thank you very much again, Prof. Inaya. Our second discussant, also from ICOL, is Dr. Haria Hal Islami. She graduated in 1998 and then took a master's in comparative laws in 1999. She also, like many of our law graduates, have delved into the area of Islamic finance, and she has been, I was just informed by our speaker that besides being in Malaysia, she was also in the Middle East for a few years and now based in Indonesia. I think given a very important task to see the development of Islamic, or what they call Sharia economics in Indonesia. She has overseen Islamic finance and business in several jurisdictions, including Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Brunei, Thailand, Bahrain, UK, and Hong Kong. So with that brief introduction, I have the pleasure to welcome Dr. Haria to make her presentations. Please, 10 minutes. We hope to get your inputs.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah nahmadu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. Wa na'udzu billahi min sururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiyalah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsan ila yaumiddin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'du. Respected Datuk Daud Bakar, who has always been my lecturer since my time in Iium and as long as I live, of course. My respected Professor Ashraf, respected Mr. Chairman, respected fellow speakers, discussants, Professor Dr. Inaya, and fellow alumni who have the pleasure, the dedication to actually join this event today. Thank you all for the opportunity. And as I was actually prepared, I was with Datuk Daud a couple of days ago, and we talk very quickly about this event, and he said, not to worry, it's a family gathering, we'll see each other and we'll talk about family affairs. And then until yesterday I was told, okay, Dr. Huria, we'd like you to speak about Indonesia, focusing in the transformation in education for global leadership. So I'll have two parts of the participation today, inshallah. The first part I'll be concentrating and focusing on this, as this is the task that I have been given to focus on for the first session. And the second session will be talking about the global leadership. I'm leading the way, inshallah. Now, when we talk about, just a moment. Okay, when we talk about the transformation of education, digital transformation in particular, Indonesia will be a very interesting case study. Why I say so? Because first of all, of course, if we are talking about the Islamic country, Indonesia has the largest population, and it is not without challenge because the number of people, the number of population are spread in over 1,000 of islands. So if we will put in short, education reform in Indonesia in terms of digital transformation, there was a plan, yes. And the plan has started perhaps about more than 5 years ago, but the adoption was very slow. And in fact, it was so slow that we hardly saw anything in the past until we have the pandemic. So this is something that, you know, I mean, like whatever happens, sometimes, no matter how bad it is, it could be for a good reason. So I hate to say it, but the fast change of the face of the education in Indonesia in terms of adoption of technological education is very much due to the pandemic. So it's not by design, but due to the pandemic. Because prior to the pandemic, we have many people who are resisting the use of the internet, never mind the internet, even the technology. And even those stakeholders, most of them consider, well, e-learning, digital learning, all this education on the digital platform are not really crucial, are not really important. People were not adopting it. So why giving the focus now? That was the attitude then. And then, of course, due to the infrastructure, or rather the lack of infrastructure in Indonesia and the demography, many people actually face the issue of limitation of access. But then come the pandemic, thanks to Corona, the COVID-19, people are forced to use the internet for all that matters, including, of course, in the aspect of education, because no matter what happens, people need education, life has to continue. And when you are not, it is not physically viable for you to meet up to actually conduct your daily matters, then internet is the solution. Sorry. So now, okay. If we take a look at the position in Indonesia, the idea of having digital education was actually planned, and in particular, actually, what has given the, sorry about this, I usually get someone else to. Just a moment, there's a little technical bug issue. I try to. Okay, let me go back. Okay. One of the biggest idea that was mooted in order to enable digital the digital transformation of education in Indonesia was the idea of having the palaparing. It was planned in 2007. The project initiated in 2015. From the time it was moved, the idea was mooted to the time that they started the project. It took them over 8 years just to start, and the concentration was divided into 3. There would be Palaparing West, Palaparing Center, and Palaparing East. And the coverage for the West, it will include the Riau Island until the Natuna Island. In the center, that would cover Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and North Maluku. And for the East, it would cover NTT, Maluku, West Papua, and Papua. And the project started to be implemented in 2016, was completed at the beginning of last year. and inaugurated by the president then. The idea of having this palaparing very much was to facilitate the use of the internet and technology with respect to education and health. They were the two primary focus at that time. Initially, the plan was to use it for online connection for examination purposes. And then eventually, even in the 2019, it was still an individual plan to use it for online learning. And how about the choice of coverage? Because this is the government-backed project, so they were carefully selected the areas that were deemed not profitable by the private entities because to ensure coverage. And the development actually, it requires 2,000 kilometers of fiber optic to cover the west area, 1,676 kilometers for the center part, and over 6,300 in the east. Why do we need so much and so long of the cables, the fiber optic? Well, in Indonesia, we have over 30,000 schools and we have over 50 million students. And these students spread over 17,000 islands. And the challenge is not only about demography, it's not only about the areas divide more, but more importantly, we still face the issue of some places or some school, about 4% who do not even have electricity supply yet. So if we would sum the challenge in general, we have the problems that we face include infrastructure availability, quantity and quality of teachers, as well as access to literacy. And in a more specific way, maybe peculiar to Indonesia, we also face the issue of mindset, people not ready to accept it. People thinking that, well, when it comes to education, you have to see the teacher face to face. And then also the issue of readiness to accept change and technology. Somehow we are just quite slow with this. So now if we are looking at the data of the connectivity in Indonesia until quite recent, Alhamdulillah, at the beginning of 2020, most notably in February actually, the extent of penetration has reached to 64%, which is quite an improvement in the context of the country, because prior to that, we didn't even have like half of the population who has access to the internet. And instead, when the government had the plan at that time to trying to penetrate and trying to reach out to the people in the rural area, the option, since we cannot use the high tech, we had to use the traditional tech at that time, since students do have access to the TV, 95% of them in 2019. So at that time, what the government had done, they actually introduced the program Belajar dari Rumah, to learn from home. And then come the pandemic, not only that everyone suddenly has to have access to the internet. So in overall, you see, it took us many years in order to reach half of the population, and another complete year to have the increase to 64. But due to the pandemic now, more than 30 to 40% increase has been witnessed with, for the use of the internet for education and shopping. Unfortunately, the survey does not really differentiate how many percent actually meant for education, how many percent for shopping. So to be quite honest, I suspected actually the percentage has gone higher for the shopping rather than for the education. But what is interesting and quite encouraging is the fact that the increase of internet usage in underdeveloped areas in Indonesia has reached 23% during this pandemic. So now the position in Indonesia, we have about 175.4 million internet users, which represents 64% of Indonesian, because at the moment, our population stands at 272.1 million total population of Indonesia. There is 17% increase. We have more than 25 million additional users. And well, probably because of the demography or basically the age of the people who mostly use the internet, in Indonesia, it's quite unique that we have 171 million of users, which represent 98% of internet users who rely on mobile internet. So and mostly the access actually using mobile phone. During the pandemic, for all this program, before the pandemic, the government has given the subsidy in a form of discount and special study from home packages in order to encourage the Indonesian to utilize the e-learning platform in the amount of equivalent to today's rate 128 million USD. And all is not lost anyway. Despite the low uptaking, the government has already used the cloud computing for UNBK and e-report, for example. Artificial intelligence is deployed to serve teaching personalization process, and Internet of Things is also used to support the collaborative and creative teaching. And the plan, inshallah, they'll introduce the satellite Satria project to complement the Palaparing project. And as for the Ministry of Education itself, they have already had the set of programs that is to provide access through the BOS Afirmasi, BOS Kinerja, BOS Regular Bantuan TIK Sekolah to improve quality and relevancy of teaching. They already have the program Pembatik Membatik to improve administration, Dapodik, and e-report. And they also provided support by giving away CBT software, and also they have also created Rumah Belajar, accessible to everyone on their website. And then also they have introduced Indonesia e-learning platform, which is also registered with the UNESCO, known as PADA, Sistem Pembelajaran Dalam Jaringan. And they are not alone. The private sectors, alhamdulillah, are actually working together with them during this pandemic. For example, Indosat Oridu has been offering 30 GB free access to more than 60 education online platforms, e-learning and universities learning sites. Telkomsel, they are also joining this step by offering 30 GB Ilmupedia access, and there are other providers who also offered from time to time promotion and a case-to-case basis promotion. Now, that when we are talking about technology, but over and more importantly, we also need to transform the contents of the education in Indonesia. So these are the homeworks for all stakeholders involved in the process, that we need to give more emphasis on quality over quantity, because right now I'm in total agreement with Datuk Daud. Why too many credit hours, too many hours spent on the quantity if we actually do not acquire all those. So yes, quality over quantity. And then global readiness as opposed to local centric, because right now I witness my children and those people studying at the universities, they are struggling reading books after books, reading about those well, after a while, or maybe they are already obsolete, because you know, when we are talking about the global market at the moment, we are talking about the world. It has shrunk. Not only that if we are talking about specific industry, of course, Islamic finance is a small industry that we know, we want to know each other. And when you get to know most of them, you will realize most of them are Iium graduate. But even the world has shrunk due to the pandemic, that, you know, the boundaries, except when it comes to physical traveling, of course, Malaysia now has closed its border to Indonesian, for example, and some other countries with a high rate of pandemic. But otherwise, when we are talking about the virtual world, we don't recognize boundaries anymore. So global readiness is very paramount, and we have to prepare everyone, all students at every level, to be ready for the global acceptance. And then, of course, despite that, we still have to give emphasis to values, norms, skills, cognitive and emotional intelligence. And more importantly, given the current condition of the market, we have to promote the whatever education that we give to the students. Not only that, we have to give the emphasis to promote creative thinking, we also have to deliver it and make them to be creative in their thinking, not just to memorize, because at the end of the day, when it comes to memory, we can never beat the internet, we can never beat the computer. So why compete with the computer? Let us be something else that the computer cannot do, that is being creative. And way forward, basically the government needs to play more active role especially to ensure provision of electricity and internet fairly in every part of Indonesia. And we have to improve collaboration between the education and the technology providers as well, in order to ensure the smooth transformation and the enhanced transformation of digital education. Noting that most Indonesians rely on smartphone, most contents and even the apps are to be designed to be smartphone friendly so that they will be more useful to the users. And then last but not least, we need to actually ensure we have improved contents, noting the comments I shared just now about quality over quantity, etc. And we have to move towards collaborative platform where all stakeholders are to contribute to achieve the tech-based education, deploying artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the Internet of Things, and to take advantage of cloud computing, big data, and super apps. And I hope when everyone put their hand together, when they put their mind in order to achieve all this, inshallah, Indonesia, as a country with the largest Muslim population, will soon assume its role as one of the leading countries, including in the digital education. With that, I say thank you. Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Dr. Haria, again for your presentation. I think your focus has been more on a very important point, and that is also relevant for us in Iium in Malaysia, is that, you know, necessity breeds innovation. Yeah? So it was in this case the COVID-19 pandemic that forced all of us. Even this session that we're having today, I don't know whether Alumni Relations Unit would have organized it if not for the fact that, you know, we have to do things now a lot online, and therefore this session provided a very good opportunity. But as you also mentioned, very importantly, it's the content of what you want to communicate through this online platform that is very, very important. And I think this is where our graduates and the youth in general, you know, are needing to be getting those inputs, especially from us. So again, thank you very much for your. Our speaker would like to comment on a point.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haria Islami. If I can take one lesson from your intervention just now, I think it's all about making education accessible to each and every citizen of the planet, Muslim or non-Muslim, it doesn't matter, because our job is to give education to everyone on the society. And pandemic has made them more reasonable, because we don't go for brick and mortar economy anymore. Brick and mortar economy has lapsed. I think we cannot be believing in physical building anymore. We have to believe in the technology as we move forward. And a country like Indonesia, with the 300 population, there's no other way but using the technology. And that is very important as we speak. Perhaps the university, our university can offer more online program for our student, alumni, or otherwise can take PhD and master from all over the world without coming to university, perhaps once in the year or twice in the year. But this is something that we need to be brave enough to open up our knowledge, our garden of knowledge and virtue to our alumni and beyond, to come back and to study the values of the university. This is a comment for the management to take this through, to make it more bullish and more assertive, to make it happen using the technology. Thank you, Prof. Islam.
Maybe while you're still here, there is a question from one Omar who just completed or about to complete masters from us. He was asking, he says that he's worried that IIUM seems to be going into too much theoretical areas rather than maybe what you were talking about, the skills orientation and so on. So maybe you just like to make a comment, you know, what you feel about this.
Yeah, I think I have had some discussion with the quality units of the university, quality strategic, and I was asking them to conduct the first ever audit on the academic, and that include the curriculum, the content, the lecturers' performance and whatnot. We have not done the audit as yet, so perhaps the time has come to really put our hand to see how far-fetched are we from the reality of the world. I cannot comment much, but I have the feeling after going through all the universities program, not only this university, 70% of the courses are not that well connected to the reality. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is always going to be a very important need for us to always relook at our programs. I think balancing between theoretical dimensions and its applications are always a challenge, I think, for university collaboration. That's where the academy industry collaboration is very, very important. We have a few more questions, but maybe we'll move to our next discussant. Also from ICOL, Omar Jah. Yeah? Oh, okay. Well, even the next one is also ICOL, so it's going to be another. The last one is internet. Yeah. Maybe we'll just stick to the thing and see how it goes. Omar Jah, who did masters in comparative laws, graduated in 1996 from Gambia, and has been recently appointed as Pro Vice Chancellor of the Islamic University of Technology based in Dhaka, Bangladesh, being appointed by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. So with this, I have the pleasure to invite our brother Omar Jah to make his presentation for 10 minutes. Your intervention is welcome.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahabati ajma'in. Allow me first and foremost, thank you for your invitation.
Okay, so this looks like a communication problem. So maybe we can move to, but it's also ours, right? It seems to be affecting even.
But we can hear you.
Okay, so in the meantime, can we go to the next presenter or next discussant rather than, yeah? And maybe Aisha could text him or try to contact him and find out, yeah? Okay, do we have Brother Ali with us? Are you, or is the problem on our side? It looks like it may be on our side.
We can hear you, Professor.
Yeah, I am, Prof, I am here. Ali Kasa here, I'm ready.
Okay, so let me just then just introduce you. Basically, Brother Ali Kasa graduated also from ICOL, and this is the final ICOL rep in 2005.
Sorry,
made any.
My apologies. My apologies. We are witnessing some thunderstorm here. That's why the electricity just went out. Sorry for that.
Is that Omar?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
So Brother Omar, are you with us? Can you make your presentation?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so we'll have without maybe your video, but please go ahead, and Brother Ali, please be patient. We'll get to you. Brother Omar, yes, you have.
No, it's okay. It's okay. That we are just witnessing some thunderstorm. That is why the electricity.
Okay. Please.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. The topic is very interesting. I was appointed to join Bangladesh. My relationship with Bangladesh dates in 2016 when I was appointed by Secretary General to join as a Pro Vice Chancellor of Islamic University of Technology. And a year later, of course, I was asked with the departure of the Vice Chancellor to run the university from 2017 up to September 1. So I am really happy that the topic assigned to me is important, but definitely the doctrine and the principles regulating the transformation in education for global leadership, in fact, is more important. Now, after this COVID-19 attack, it seems to me now that the importance of Iium which a university I'm very much attached to, not only organically, but also functionally. Not only because I'm an alumnus, but because IIUM plays a very pivotal role in keeping the educational philosophy of Islamic worldview. And with this COVID-19, I think the issue is no longer what is it, but what is becoming. And I think this role, IIUM, is very important to play that role after this new normal. And I believe now that for us to really get prepared to set standard, set the agenda, not only to untrap ourselves from the philosophy of educational philosophy of the past, but also to set the standard in the future, we have to look at the regulating principles of the transformation in education in a global leadership. I believe that we have found it in, of course, as respected Dr. Dawood just mentioned, we found it in our legacy. The 4 fundamental principles that I have just quoted here before I go to the topic of education, transforming education in Bangladesh. I believe that there are a number of principles, the principle of constant change of this world. And if we are to transform education, this change that we are witnessing must be manageable. We have to create mechanism to manage, and I think IIUM can play a very pivotal role, not only to be on the way to change, but also how to manage the change in the future. The second is the principle of course, the old will leave and then the young will remain. That being the case, the young need to be mentored, and that mentorship also is for the future to me, because no longer we are coming to a new normal, and this new normal is something that the Islamic world, under the leadership of universities like IIUM, should chart a way for. And then the third principle is the principle of perceived institution. You know, our institutions are independent, they have their independent personality. Unless we understand that, it is difficult for us to groom the next generation of Muslims and the next generation of the world. And the fourth principle is the principle of intergenerational justice, where we do justice to ourselves by making sure now that the students in our universities and the students that are coming will be groomed based on the intergenerational justice. When I joined IUT, and I had a number of these, because IUT is a university funded by Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which is now welcoming all international students from different parts of the world, and which is a university that is an engineering university, but also a university that is built on a number of principles. So now, when we come to the transformation in Bangladesh, why transformation and the steps taken so far? Why transformation? And I think it has just been mentioned with the introductory remarks of Dr. Dawood, as well as my colleagues, about the history of Bangladesh. When you look at Bangladesh in terms of history, the history of Bangladesh as part of the Indian subcontinent, there is a history of colonialism, and the Bangladeshi educational system was trapped into that history, and that history needed to be untrapped. And that was one of the reasons why we need reform. The second thing that Bangladesh needs reform was that the Constitution, 1992 Constitution of Bangladesh, give, for example, primary obligation of every right for all its citizens to get education. And because of the level of poverty in Bangladesh, when the Constitution declared that, definitely there was some need to reform also education to be able to meet these requirements of the Constitution. And of course, another thing is about, after that, you have a number of commissions because of the need for reform and the need for educational reform. There were total 7 national education commissions have so far been formulated in the post-independence of Bangladesh. But of course, many of the reports, most of these reports were not very much implemented because of the political upheavals that has happened. Lately, the current education policy document, as the National Education Policy, the National Education Policy 2010 was eventually formulated and is it currently in the process of implementation. Now, for the reforms, we have a number of issues like the cultural transmission. We have, for example, social renewal transmission. We have a number of like digital transformation. But before we go to that, let me tell you which many challenges it becomes clear to break the vicious circle of quality and relevant education in Bangladesh. The key to success, they understood, is the development of and in implementation of a broad and robust higher education system. And to have such a system, the following should be placed, and this is what they did. They created policy coherence across different ministries, and also they created an enabling funding regime, as well as innovative education and training institutions and development of learning materials. And these were the issues, as well as creating structures to make sure now that educational reform took place to meet the requirements of the 1992 Constitution. One of the, or some of the most pivotal structures that we have in Bangladesh, that is the National Qualification Framework, NQF, and the Higher Education Quality Enhancement Project, Higher Education Quality Enhancement Project, as well as Institutional Quality Assurance Cells, and Bangladeshi Technical Education Board, synchronizing madrasa to mainstream education. So with that, you have then these structures, as well as the policies needed in terms of meeting the constitutional requirements for educational reform. Then there are a number of points in which you can, of course, find in my paper. Now, for digital transformation, when you come to the digital transformation, Bangladesh is growing rapidly due to smart use of technology. To drive digital transformation, the digital inclusion strategy aims to promote the untapped mobile money. The country has strong 4G internet support. Each and every school in Bangladesh to enhance the process of teaching and learning. The ICT-based courses and projects are introduced from the higher secondary level to increase awareness and mindset on digital technology. But they also understand now to boost the basic and secondary education and push it in a transformative pattern. They need also to boost the higher education, that is why Bangladesh government has established a university called Bangabundo Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Digital University, offering Bachelor of Science in Information in IoT, Internet of Things. Of course, they are very much in Internet of Things and artificial intelligence, which is also a collaborative with my university, which IUT, International Islamic University of Technology. So as the second discussants just said, the pandemic has some positive aspects, because before the pandemic, it was very difficult, for example, to convince the old-fashioned, I mean those that are out of the what we call the digital citizens, to convince people to become digital citizens. But after the pandemic, definitely a lot of effort has been made to make sure now that people are become digitalized, and that is a nutshell in terms of digital transformation. But the other point that I would like to talk about, because we know now that in education, you cannot transform. You cannot also create new mindset if you don't have three things. Number one, you have to go into the digital age, not only in terms of reaction, but proactively. But the other thing is about funding. If in a country like Bangladesh, where you have the poverty line is a little bit high, I think the issue of funding also come there. That is why there is what they call enabling social critique and development and a better life. In this point number, there is a bank. A Grammy Bank is a microfinance organization and a community development bank funded in Bangladesh. And it makes a small loans, because we understand now that if you do not help students and poor families to be able to support their children, I think we do more lip servicing than just helping them to do that. If you help somebody to be digital, if you help somebody to be proactive in terms of future, I think you also have to enable him in terms of funding. And that is why there is a bank they call Grammy Bank, and it's a community development bank started in Bangladesh. It makes small loans, and these small loans to the impoverished, especially those that have the families that are facing trouble in terms of giving their children education. So people are given loan, and the application of the microcredit can be enabling social critique and development for better life. So Grameen Bank is founded on the principle that loans are better than charity to interrupt poverty. They offer people the opportunity to take the initiative in business in particular. And with that, another dimension after the digital citizen process, as well as the funding for the students and the families that needs funding. The other thing is what we call, I think I can also relate it to the humanizing of the human. Because we have discovered now also the student do not only need to be supported in terms of finance, they do not only need also to be supported in terms of the future digitalization, but they also need a human touch. That is why we started in IUT what we call a tripartite relationship between the teachers, the university, the family, and the student. We have discovered now that many of our students, they lack a lot of human touch because of the missing link between the university and the student and the family. So we are now recreating that link in collaboration with other universities to make sure now that these three fundamentals, essential fundamentals in terms of looking for the future because of the new normal, as well as giving them the opportunity, enabling environment, as well as also putting in them a human touch to make sure now that they will be fully fledged students and fully fledged human when they come out. These are three things that we at least we are doing for the reform of education. There are other issues like the transformation of values and skill, but this you will find, of course, in my paper and many other issues. But just to conclude, let me thank the organizers for inviting me. My attachment with IIUM is not only organic, but it's also functional. IIUM is a leading university that I think is ready to, if, for example, the alumni help, is ready now to set the agenda in this new normal. And in that, of course, we have the legacy in Islam, because our long history in Islam, because many people in the world, they forget that with the new world, Islam has more important legacy than any other legacy. The Western civilization that is hegemonic in terms of intellectualism has not yet spent about 100 years. We have to remember, now we have a legacy of 1,000 years when Islam led the universe in technology, in history, and this is a hope and optimism on which we can build for the future. And the other thing is about the curriculum corruption. We know now that after, when you look at the globe today, from the kindergarten, going to different levels of education, the basic levels, curriculums are being corrupted, of course, when it comes to the secular materialism. And I think IIUM can also lead in the future in terms of the proactivity after this new normal to make sure now that the corruption of curriculum is corrected through our efforts and through IIUM leading the Islamic universities of the world to come with a new culture. The second thing is the new normal. Of course, with the new normal also, because who is designing the new normal, and I think IIUM can also be part of that leading university to create the new normal, because the Islamic world do not only need to be trapped into the educational philosophy of the secular materialism, but as Muslims, we have to come back with our own proactive strategy based on the new normal. That is why I hope now that Iium also, with the help of the Alumni, to do that. And finally, I would like to thank you for inviting me, and inshallah, I will send you my presentation. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Brother Omar Jah. I think your main point, or your focus of your presentation was, I think if I can capture it in one line, the only thing constant or the only thing permanent is change. And therefore, definitely Iium has to play a big role in this changing world, not only to manage change, but if I can just add on, I think Iium has to also try to play a role in directing the change. I think this is this is a bigger challenge, how we are going to make a positive contribution in directing the change. And of course, your point about going digital, funding, and the importance of the human touch is very, very important. This is what our graduates should do. Before I call on Brother Ali, there are a couple of questions, or at least one question that's very much connected to the presentation just now, and that was from Adil Chilungu from Malawi, who was talking about the need for us to offer online courses. And he was offering his, his institution or his organization in Malawi to be the, the agency there to collaborate with Iium to organize, programs there. I think it's a very good idea. And in fact, this is what the alumni should be talking about. We have, of course, lecturers in Iium who are teaching various courses, but we have 100,000 graduates all over the world. So we should probably be thinking about how we can mobilize our graduates. Quite a few of them are CEOs of banks and working in various places all over the world. We could get them to contribute into these programs, right? So Iium is organizing it, but the speakers are not necessarily the lecturers, but our alumni, right? So these are the people on the ground, and maybe they would be able to give new dimensions. So I think that's a very important point. Thank you very much, Prof. Brother Omar, for your discussion of Bangladesh. Now we move to our next discussant, Brother Ali Kasa, who is based now in Australia. He did his Bachelor's of Laws and then Comparative Laws 2005, specializing in the World Trade Organization agreements. And I like the last statement. I will read it. As a trained lawyer, Ali made a conscious decision not to practice law. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so now, Brother Ali, but before you do, also please explain what is a serial entrepreneur. Yeah, I think everybody will want to know that the serial entrepreneur is not a serial killer or something like that. So please, what is a serial entrepreneur first, and then your presentation.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. First of all, can you see my screen, all of you? Can somebody confirm they can see my screen?
Not yet, no screen shown yet.
All right. Yeah. So you see the screen or not?
No, we just see you.
Okay. So, so I think, first of all, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be part of Alumni and pleasure to serve the university and the Ummah as well. So I think, Prof, I have the answer for you presented. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. My session today, I did not want to, I wanted to give a different dimension to the session today. And my session really will focus on what are the opportunities that COVID-19 presents to the education. And obviously, Iium being the knowledge of, the garden of knowledge and virtue, the idea now it's what opportunities does Iium or any education institution has got as a result of COVID-19. So so first of all, I wanted to highlight the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Quran, Allah will not change the condition of people until they they change what's in themselves. So whatever I'm about to say here is really going to depend on every one of us, whether we want to change or not. And like Dato Daud said, you know, the change starts with us. Transformation starts with our ability to change and transform ourselves. So one of the biggest gifts that Allah has gifted to human beings is the ability to choose, an ability to make conscious decisions. And whatever I'm about to say, as I said, is really depending on each one of us, whether we want to make that change or that transformation. Now, before I move on to tell a little bit about myself and what I'm about to share, I think Dato Daud mentioned a little bit about transformation. So what do we mean? And I think a lot of people, when I come across, they use change and transformation interchangeably. And in my humble opinion, change and transformation are two different things. You know, so whatever you see here in the red circle is probably change. You know, you're probably changing things so you can reduce your cost. You're improving your skills or your activities. You change your habits. So that's where change is operating within that red circle. Now, the further you operate, where you go into your processes, technology, and your strategy, and then when you go into change of perception or offering, or even change in markets, and then your change is probably not just activity, but functions or organization or enterprise-wise, then if those three elements, your strategy, your markets, and your overall change happens, then we're talking about transformation. So that's what I wanted to highlight. So I think we're going to use transformation throughout the session, or we have used it quite a lot. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understand that change and transformation are two different things. Now, Prof. Islam, your answer is here. I wanted to mention this not just because I want to you know, market or brand myself, but I wanted to put a little bit context on what I'm about to say. So obviously you understand that I did my law degree in Iium. I did my master's in law. I continued my study by doing diploma of entrepreneurship from Australian Institute of Entrepreneurship. I did also my MBA from Asian University in Malaysia. I've authored a number of books on succession planning, on leadership, on critical thinking, entrepreneurship, and also life. I've lectured as part of external program for University of Technology, Sydney. I'm a trainer and instructional designer at the same time. But more importantly, I am an owner of a number of educational assets. In Australia, right now we have 2 colleges, one in Queensland called Eagle Academy. We offer a number of programs up to advanced diploma level. We also have the Exceed and Hair Assembly. This is operating out of Victoria in Melbourne, currently in lockdown, but it basically offers automotive program, diploma in automotive, and diploma in hair styling and salon management. We have partnered with Tony and Guy worldwide to actually run their academy on not just to manage salon, but also run the courses for hairstylists and so on. We also have a number of digital content, like Workstar is a Sydney-based technology company where we do digital content, gamification, virtual reality and augmented reality, and the same thing for Ignatium. And we have been in business for the past 20 years. And it has been, like Dr. Haria said, has been a real challenge to get organizations and universities to adopt digital learning and digital content. And that's why I basically brought this to actually offer that perspective. Now, serial entrepreneur, Prof. Islam, is also because I currently own and operate more than 30 companies, mainly in Australia, Malaysia, Philippines, and US. And today I just wanted to provide a little bit more context on the education side. Now, let's give a global perspective of what's happening. And I've taken this from the UN report in August 2020, and I can share this report with some of you, or you can Google this and you will be able to download the PDF version of this report. But the impact of COVID-19 has been massive on education. As you can see, about 1.6 billion learners from 190 countries of all continents have been affected for months. Obviously, we have closure of school affected almost 94% of world students population. 2.8 million additional children and youth, either from preschool or probably are impacted negatively by COVID because they might not have access to education or means of connecting to schools. So this is the global perspective of how COVID-19 has impacted education or has put a total hold on the education system worldwide. Now, a little bit about the Australian perspective. As you know, education is our third generator of or third contributor to the GDP. And I've highlighted here some numbers of what education actually means for the Australian economy. So I've taken the statistics from the from a Deloitte report, which was engaged by Austrade. And as you can see here, foreign students' income contributed about 34 billion to the Australian economy. And that was in 2018. That represented about 15% increase from the previous year. Now, Australia has about 690,000 foreign students. And the number is targeted to go to about a million by 2025. Now, as you know, Australian government has banned foreign travel, so no foreign travels can come in. That includes the students who were enrolled, they have visas, and they cannot legally come in. And what this means for colleges like ours, for example, is that we can't bring our students in, and therefore the income has dropped. And basically, obviously, this would have a massive long-term or medium to long-term impact on the Australian population and Australian economy as well. So the question now is, how do we survive? So far, we survive on a number of government initiatives. The Australian government has provided what we call a cash boost. So cash boost, it offers up to $100,000 per year to any Australian company. And we have JobKeepers right now that has started for 6 months, and the government has extended it for another 6 months, where we can get payroll subsidy up to $3,000 per employee per month. And that's how a number of colleges can are currently kind of surviving. So the question now is, how did the education environment pre and post-COVID has changed? So obviously pre-COVID, we had a lecture and we had a classroom environment, and at home students take their assignments and bring it back to the lecturer or the teacher to mark. Now post-COVID, obviously this has changed. So we have the lecturer or the teacher more as a facilitator and a collaborator with the students. And obviously with the view of technology, now we have the lecturer basically interacts with students through technology, whether it be that through Zoom or through other means of technology. Now this is what we call the flip school model, where you flip the classroom into an online environment or an interactive environment where the student and the lecturers basically they interact and communicate. Now I think Prof. Inaya mentioned this as well, but this perhaps could be a hope for about 250 million people or students that are in the poverty zone and they did not have access to education. And by potentially flipping our education system or creating a new environment, we might enable access to students around the world and probably provide them hope for them to have a better life and a better education for themselves. Now, what are the opportunities that the COVID-19 has presented to educational institutions worldwide? Well, one of the first thing which I think Dr. Haria mentioned was the fact that the user adoption has improved. People used to have, or used to say that, well, nobody want to learn online, even though we all watch YouTube all the time. So the question is, people do not want to learn online probably before COVID-19. And with COVID-19, they were forced to. And this presents a huge opportunity for educational institution to basically tap into the user adoption and user acceptance so that they can transform their classroom into a digital platform, a digital learning. Now, the other interesting point that I think you will see, in Australia, we have a major problem where the online education is not considered a learning hour. And I believe this is probably similar in Malaysia and other countries as well. So the question now is, how do we account for learning hours when everything is online? And I think the regulators right now in Australia and around the world are definitely reviewing their curriculum design. They're also reviewing the contact hours requirement in order for digital learning to take space and to take place. The other thing as well, content creation. As you can see, before COVID-19, everything was printed, everything was in a book format. Right now, people are thinking, or lecturers are thinking on how can I use my slides or my PDF or my Word document, and how can I convert that in a digital content. And I think slowly the content creation will become a lot more accessible, not just to IT literate lecturers, but also to laymen, people that probably never know more than just creating a slide. And right now there is a lot of tools for educators, teachers, and instructors on how they can take their slides or their content and convert that into a digital content. Now, what are some ongoing challenges? So I basically am conscious of the fact that not everybody has a laptop, or not everybody has a tablet or iPad. So I think the digital divide is a lot more apparent right now, where people or students that, even though they might have electricity or they have internet, but they might not have device. So I think knowing that digital divide exists and trying to gap between those that have and don't have access to digital technology and internet is an ongoing problem, even though it is improving. Now, one of the key challenges is going to be learn how to learn. And I think as teachers, we are taught in our teachers' college pedagogy, and that is basically how to teach. But the key, I think, right now is how do we transform that mindset from teaching to enabling learning and getting our students and our learners to learn how to learn. Instead of telling them, we need to tell them how to learn or look for information. I think Prof. Daud or Dato Daud mentioned this a little bit. If you look at Wikipedia, for example, there are about 5 trillion articles. It will take maybe 3 or 4 lifetimes of every one of us to read those articles. So today we don't have a problem of knowledge. Today we have a problem of how do we find knowledge when we need the knowledge. And that's basically going to be a key competency moving forward into the new learning environment for learners and educators. The other thing as well is how do we get regulators to basically adopt what we call the blended learning environment. So really not just to move away from contact hours or learning hours to a competency-based learning assessment, where we focus on enabling learners to be competent in what they need to learn rather than counting for their attendance and their learning hours. And I think that's basically going to be the key challenge. Now, even though I believe Darwin is a controversial person when it comes to Islam, because the theory of evolution. But Prophet said, "Al-hikmatu dalat al-mu'min," which is basically the wisdom is the path of every believer. And this is what Charles Darwin said about, it is not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent that survive. It is the most adaptable to change. And COVID-19 is basically definitely a very challenging environment for all of us around the world. But the key is, how are we able to adapt, and how are we able to change, and how are we able to transform from, becoming a shop where we look for students to come. And right now the environment is such that even though the students have the money and they want to come, they have the visa, but they can't come. And what we need to do is to basically go to the students, and I'll share more about that in my second session or second round on how to get Iium to go to every student around the world, rather than wait for the students to come to Iium. And that's basically going to be a key challenge for us. And with that, I thank you for your attention, and maybe if there is a little bit of time, I can answer a little bit more questions, or probably get some feedback from everybody else.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much, Brother Ali. It looks like when you were speaking, you didn't see my message that I sent to the group. We may not have time for the second round, but we will have a closing remark session. So you're going to have to be very creative to get it done within the 2 minutes that we are giving to you. Just a couple of questions, very important. One, again, I think is for Alumni Relations Unit. Need to really seriously take this into consideration. Coming from Ustazah Halimah, I would like to know if IIUM is open to co-develop educational platforms with alumni members. Although also, is IIUM premises available for alumni members? I don't know why they think it is not. And thirdly, why is IIUM holdings so difficult to get through? So I don't know what the answer to this third question is. But I think the point about co-developing programs with our alumni members, I think same thing with Adli just now from Malawi, right? So we can organize this, and actually the alumni members itself could be the resource people, yeah. And then we have one more question. It's a long question from I'm not sure whether it's a brother or sister, Mutiyu. Quite a sensitive issue, because she's talking about ranking and saying that as an international graduate of IIUM, she feels that IIUM should reconsider ranking issue because it's affecting international graduates when they try to market themselves. So if you're not in the top 500 or 600, you don't even get called for, that first interview. So you can't show how good you are. So this is an interesting point. We need to think about this and address it, and how we are going to improve that. So that's coming from brother or sister Mutiyu. Brother Mutiyu, all right, and it's a valid point, all right. Okay, we come to our final discussant, Brother Ernest Yelman, who did Master of Science in Computer and Information Engineering from the Kuliah of Engineering, 2016, so our most recent graduate. He's currently he's the director of the International Office, Ibn Khaldun University in Turkey, and he's also the Secretary General of the International Islamic Federation of Student Organizations, IFSO. So with that, Brother Ernest, the floor is yours, please. You have 10 minutes. Hope you can try to think about how you're going to combine your first round with your second round, if possible. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, I'm very honored and privileged to be not physically maybe, but digitally in this wonderful hall that we have spent a lot of time doing a lot of programs in Malaysia, there in the 5th floor in the rectory building there that you are. So I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much for the invitation, and I personally thank IIUM division for organizing this. This is very important gathering today, and very important topic. And first of all, I would like to thank also and greet our president of IIUM, Professor Dato, for being with us today. I'm very happy to see the IIUMians there. First of all, the word transformation, I would like to comment on that on my personal level, that I have transferred, although I'm the only one who is here today as an engineering one, but I'm also, because of IIUM and because of the environment that we have lived and the opportunities that IIUM gave us, we had this, I had transformed from engineering to be more for social sciences, and I ended up now, after doing masters in engineering, doing masters and starting PhD in political science and international relations. And this is also one of the transformations that I have been, lived in IIUM. Coming to the topic that I have been asked, I totally agree with Mr. Ali Kasa that there is a big difference between change and transformation. So in regards of the topic that I've been asked to talk about, the reforms of the education in Turkey, I think Turkey also was one of the best countries in this Muslim world that has really big transformation in education. And if I have to combine both of the sessions in 10 minutes, so I've really having the short time to give some of the history that what happened in Turkey in the last 15 years, that we have doubled the number of the universities. First of all, like the transformation in Turkey happened, like I will be talking about the two different issues, which is the infrastructure and the knowledge itself, and how we are trying to do that transformation. And this is how I'm continuing IIUM's visions and missions. And as you can see, I started to work in the university, and I've been, alhamdulillah, got the chance to be, in the establishment of Ibn Khaldun University in Istanbul, and also being the Secretary General of IFSO, again because of IIUM and the environment and the people from all around the world that I've been introduced in IIUM. So the transformation that happened in the education started very rapidly last 15 years in doubling the number of the universities, as I've said. So we had like around 73 universities in just 2002, and we have almost now 200 universities that are working for all the disciplines scientifically and socially. And also Turkey, in terms of bylaws that put on as a conditions for the age of education, I think this was one of the best change that happened in Turkey is to put an age, the compulsory education, to raise it and make the high school also compulsory for all citizens to have them, unless if they have really serious issues to be shown. And then this is in terms of bylaws, but when it comes to the issue of economy and financial support by the government itself, the government totally believes that the strength and the development of a country, definitely one of the main stones of developing a country is through the education. So Turkey totally spending a lot on education, and in fact there are some some jokes made on some big universities in Turkey that the budget of one of the universities, like Istanbul University or Marmara University, is equal to 5 or 6 ministries of Turkey. So the amount of budget that they have is really big, and then this gives them the strength on how they can spend on a student, and also bring up the best educational systems by challenging and competing all the education systems all around the world. Not only that, Turkey was closed internationally. So I'm trying to combine the global and the transformation and then the leadership. And then Turkey have started the scholarship last 10 years in 2 ways: sending the Turkish people, thousands and thousands of people to study abroad, giving them the scholarships in the best universities all around the world, in Europe and in England, in America, in Malaysia, and in South Africa, in the best institutions all around the world. And on guaranteeing them, I think Malaysia also played a big role also in that. Don't lose the minds that you send outside, and make sure that they will come back. And I think today in the roundtable that you have, most of the best examples for that. Most of you are studied in Iium and outside, but you're still serving back to your country and adding to the society back. And that's very important. I think most of the countries all around the Muslim world having this big issue that when students goes abroad to study in good institutions, they had hard time to come back, or when they come back, they can't be used or recruited in the best way. So this is the one way outside that Turkey played a big role, and I think Turkey now is seeing the fruits of that, because those people who studied outside are coming back and having really good add to the society, and as well opening up the scholarship to the students from all around the world. And I think Iium did that in a very good way, attracting thousands of international students from all around the world, and sending them back to their countries to first bring that minds from all around the world, and bring it back and stay doing that bridge between the countries. And alumni are the best example for that. So Turkey also have now almost 150,000 of scholarships every year, giving to almost 110 countries from all around the world, and giving them the scholarships to have this the environment of exchanging the knowledge, and giving the opportunity for internationalization, the education in Turkey. And of course that's not enough. I mean, infrastructure and bringing people wasn't enough for education to be developed, as Prof. Dato explained in his speech. This is like the knowledge that we are having it, that we are teaching it to our students, shouldn't be exported from the West. And also we can't just rely on our traditional knowledge or Islamic knowledge, but we need that comparative platform for students to know their traditions, and to know how to match and then run with the best educations all around the world, and keeping that discipline, and then getting that if I might say, the intellectually independence for students. And I think this is what we are missing in the whole Muslim world, that the education is packed selling to our university. Like, even when you call something Islamic, but in fact when you go inside, you can't find the real theories and worldviews of our own Islamic world have been there. So I think this is one of the biggest challenge that Iium and also universities that trying to do the change. So Turkey trying to reform the curriculums as well, in terms of having this intellectually independence in the system itself. And this is really hard, and really needing brains and academicians to work, and to have more this kind of brainstorming together. And we in Turkey, I think this is really working. And then I think that is the next challenge when it comes to, finally, if we see how we challenge the education system. I really second the speakers before me. who mentioned about the COVID system and how people are forced actually to online education while they were not aware maybe of it. But I think through my experience with our students, with my students in the university, I think still the physical education, I mean, face-to-face education is really having the different tastes. The students are really in need of it. And I think, may Allah all, we will get rid of, inshallah, very soon from this COVID, but this is a big lesson for us that the education shouldn't stop at all. And Turkey actually, and I think Malaysia as well, we're very successful in transferring to the online system, but that doesn't mean that we need to, to continue that before, like when COVID's go, when we get rid of the COVID, because that touch of the professors to the students in the class, I think that's not comparable with any kind of online and education, especially when it talks about the matter of thoughts and a matter of discussions, matter of debates and all. So with that, I would like to also touch upon how much is important for us as alumni of Iium. I think I can mention this here. Like I didn't see. I've been all around the world because of IFSO, and I have to mention about the IFSO as the biggest and oldest institution that cares about all the Muslim organizations and student organizations all around the world. And we are working now in 64 countries. And then I got the chance to see most of these groups and countries and students. And unfortunately, our youth are having a big problem now in challenging how to be guided, because the new trend is not enough with printing books and distributing the books and ask students to have this, rather than finding the new and challenged way in bringing those education and knowledge in digital platforms. But I have to mention that I have never seen any Iium alumni, whether it's in America, in Australia, in Indonesia, in Morocco, in Qatar, in Algeria, and unless they are holding really good positions, not only positions, adding back to their society, and they're thankful to be an Iium alumni. In Turkey, I think most of Sister Aisha knows that our alumni is a bunch of people that are almost leading the country, from the presidency to the ministries to the biggest NGOs that are led and headed by Iium alumni. We are very thankful and for being Iium alumni. And I am just, when you are talking, I was just dreaming that what if each country has an institution like Iium alumni with its family feeling that we have. And I think that's why it's getting me to be, touched to work in university and try to, to bring the same, visions and missions that we have that in our alumni. I thank again for the invitation. And if I have one last word to be touched on this topic, without getting, zallatul lisan, how the Arab says, in front of our professors. But I think the biggest challenge of our time is how to reform the curriculums, not the way of educations, not the strategy. I think we are able to do that and we can work on it. But the challenge is the reform of the curriculums and how we can initiate and start to author our own research. And then one of the comments that I need really to comment on that, and it's really important as we are alumni, is the terms of research. I think alumni, Iium it should be in the top 500 and even more. And that's the proof when I apply to different universities all around the world. And then I have friends who are getting better ranked, from the universities who are better ranked, but still Iium as an internationalization system, they get acceptance everywhere. But still we need more research in Iium, more production of research in the minds and the authors that they have. And also the alumni, academicians that are all around the world, they need to actually put back the research to our education system that affects all around the world. And thank you very much for giving me time again.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much, Brother Ernest, for also wrapping up your second round as well. Really, your Turkish example was very, very interesting. Lots of funds being, put to universities, but at the same time, not only sending students and staff overseas, but then also offering the scholarships for people to come and study in Turkey. I think this is a very interesting thing. We used to do that, I think, previously. Maybe now we have slowed down in the case of Malaysia, including in IIUM. Your last point about the content is very, very important. Yes, the digital age and the modes are important, but I think where our expertise lies is in the content, and that's a major challenge, I think, and that has to be something for the for the university to look at and to think about how we're going to do this. I also see something that can be done, and that is IIUM alumni can team up with IFSO and actually materialize what was mentioned by Brother Ernest, having programs in collaboration with IFSO. They've got their branches all over the world. We have it well, so this would be a wonderful way to connect. I think that could be something to think about. All right, we move backwards and we go to Brother Ali. You have the entrepreneurial task of doing your entire second round in 2 minutes.
Okay. Yes, sir. I will certainly do that right away. And what I wanted to do is to share my screen one more time. And just give me a minute. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I wanted to say right now is how can IIUM be a global leader in education? And I look at this. This is the statistics that I think Sister Aisha shared. Well, you can already see the statistics speaks for itself. We are, even though we are an international university, we are Malaysian based, presumably because the funding is mainly from the Malaysian government. But the question now is how can we move from here? Now, I think one of the key reasons to do is to look at what is the IIUM purpose. And purpose is what is the reason for its being. And if you look at the Google purpose, for example, is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So perhaps I think I would say the IIUM purpose could be how to make education accessible to every Muslim or to every human being. And I think this is important. I think Prof. Daud mentioned this. So how can we get everybody, and I think Prof. Inaya mentioned this as well, how can we get education, how can we make it accessible to every human being? This is a model that I was going to put forward and how we can do that. But I think a lot of times when we talk to people, they ask me, what's the example? And if you look at this, for example, I've brought you some examples of platforms that are currently revolutionizing the way how humans learn and how education has been done. One of the good examples I want to share is the University of People in the United States. And if you go look at this website, it's basically totally free, tuition-free content. Currently, there are 44,000 students actually studying here. And compare this to IIUM, presumably 15,000. And it's a tuition-free, it's run by volunteers, and it's run by people who want to do good. And the only way they charge is they charge for the exam. So you study for free, but you pay for the exam. So examples like this could probably be platforms for IIUM. And the way forward basically is how can we bring IIUM to everyone, to every Muslim or every human being, wherever they are. And models to follow would be what I just mentioned. But one of the key things that IIUM has is we have 40 years of experience. We have global presence of alumni, probably maybe 100 countries. So we can tap in the network of IIUM graduates or alumni, wherever they are, and they can be our resource. They can be our instructors. We have a growing Muslim population. So Muslims are the fastest growing segment in the world population right now. And you're talking about Australia or US or Europe, where Muslims would like to have access to the Islamic content, and IUM can lead this segment. We right now have accessible technology, and IUM, through IUM Holdings, I think can use the subsidiaries that you have got to actually partner with either alumni or other similar content providers or technologies, so that we can make this instantly accessible to everybody. And right now, as I said, thank you to COVID, user acceptance and user adaptation has been a lot easier. And I think the fact that we are doing something is really wonderful. The fact that we're coming together is wonderful. And I think thanks to COVID now, our mind has started to change. A conference like this would have taken probably 3 months and it would have cost us hundreds of thousands of ringgit. Right now, instantly, we have 150 people who stayed throughout 3 hours. So I think Aristotle said criticism is something we can avoid easily by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. So if IUM wants to be nothing, then lepa ija, do nothing is the best way. If IUM wants to be the leader, we have to take the lead. We have to act, and we have to act now, and rather than wait for others to do it. And that's all I got to say. I hope I said it within 2 minutes. Thank you, Prof, and thank you, Dato, and thank you, everybody.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much, Brother Ali. You are truly a serial entrepreneur. I think you have given a lot of food for thought, especially, again, I think for our Alumni Relations Unit, how we can benefit from our alumni all over the world. Brother Omar, are you ready for your 2 minutes?
Yes.
Please.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you again for inviting me. Definitely, IUM, as I said, is a university that I'm attached to, not only in terms of being an alumnus, but in terms of the ideas that IUM advance, and in terms of potential that IUM to lead, of course, in the new normal, which we should design. The alumni should play a more important role. I don't know whether you have maybe you have it or not, maybe a bank account or any transferable mechanism that you can inform the alumni to transfer whatever in cash or kind. This is a good idea, because I was in IUM in my last visit, just about last year. I was able to sit with Prof. Kamal, Hassan, and others. And I had a meeting also last 2 months ago with the rector of IUM through the OIC meeting that was organized. I hope now that at least the alumni must be supported in terms of leading, because there is a lot of funding gaps that IUM need. This is one of the things. The other thing, as I said, since we are now going into the new normal, life after COVID will not be the same. IUM can also kind of control change, because what we know is that we are in a constant change. But if that change is not managed, definitely it's going to be very difficult. We can have scientific, technological, artificial intelligence that becomes wild, that becomes, uncontrollable. And I think Islamic world, especially now I am working with OIC, which this university is an organ of OIC. There are other affiliates like IUM, like IU of Pakistan, of Uganda, like the Islamic University of Niger. I think together we can work together in terms of making sure now that this constant change is managed. Lastly, definitely, I would like to also think that the idea of untrapping ourselves, because we know now that in terms of transformation, before you transform, you definitely have to have an independent worldview. How do we entrap ourselves from the secular materialistic worldview in which we have been captured, and come back with a new idea that is built on our legacy. As the president, Dr. Dawood, respectedly said, these are challenges that the alumni also should play a part. And I thank you once again for inviting me, and I'm ready always to be in contact. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much, Brother Omar. Again, I think to our alumni relations unit, we have somebody who is also connected to the OIC, and therefore that's another possible link that we should try to utilize fully. Yeah. Again, our alumni are everywhere. Sister Haria, your 2 minutes, please.
Hello. Assalamualaikum. Hello.
Waalaikumsalam. Carry on, Dr. Haria.
All right, thank you so much. And since I only have 2 minutes, let me actually again share the slide, because in 2 minutes I will need this help, definitely. Okay, now in 2 minutes time, let actually try to share a bit about the global leadership Iium leading the way. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone here. I'm just more fortunate because I'm given the task to share some ideas. So let me pick up from what Daud has shared, that when it comes to teaching, it is very important that what we teach, it has to be relatable, something that the student can relate. But let me take one step further to that, that it's not only that it has to be relatable, but we have to actually ensure when we teach the student, when we teach the our brother, sister, that those that we teach will have the ability to relate or to apply. Because it could be challenging. If I recall those days in 1990s when I was there in Iium, whatever subject that I took at that time, people may get confused why this lady actually taking contract, taking commercial law, taking cyber law, taking Sharia, taking fiqh and everything. Like there is no concentration. But the truth is, because I'm so much interested in Islamic finance, but Islamic finance at that time was not a common, it wasn't even an established industry yet. Even the term was not very well established and coined as Islamic finance. So, and in fact, I have a broader vision at that time. I would like to do Islamic finance in the sense of fintech, but again, there was no fintech at that time. So you see, but I had to be creative. I have to actually take all those subjects that I knew would build to my passion, what I could apply in the future, what will be relevant in the future, even though it may not have its place yet during the time. And on top of that, of course, we need to take it a step further. Not only that we are able to apply after you master this capacity, we must be able to innovate, because at the end of the day, especially in today's time, in the nowadays term, well, unless you are able to innovate, otherwise you'll be out of date. And then I would like to introduce, this is what I believe and what I actually have been applying to myself, and I found it very useful and it really works. I call it as triple C and IT. And what I mean by triple C, of course, the first one being challenge, in order for us to improve, all students and lecturers alike, everyone involved in the area of education, we have to keep on challenging ourselves, keep on setting the bar higher, never get satisfied with whatever we already have in place. We have A now, we need to get B. Not the grade, yeah, of course you don't want to get B when it comes to grade, but what I mean is keep on improving, keep on challenging yourself, keep on making whatever it is you face better. And then on top of that, the second C is to compete. You need to keep on competing, not with everyone else. That will lead to frustration, but you keep on competing with yourself. You have to always, like, each day you actually do your self-assessment, think about the day that you have spent and see what I have done today. Can it be better tomorrow? And if you go to certain area of your interest, say you have developed certain theory, can you actually develop it further? Can you actually make it a better theory? Can you actually apply it to the industry? If the industry has certain problem, can you actually solve it? And not only solving it, can you actually recommend a better solution, innovate a better system, for example? So keep on competing with yourself. Do not compare. And of course, don't forget to cherish whatever you have. Be grateful about it. Be grateful that you still wake up and breathing, because of course, you know, like whatever that Allah gave, or Allah gives us, there is a blessing, and we have to be grateful about that, without which we will not be here today, without which we will not be able to achieve what we want to achieve, and most importantly, of course, without which we will not be able to do whatever goods, to give whatever, to share whatever goods to everyone, which will be the saving for us in the hereafter. And of course, being a Iium student, you always have the plus, the IT, there is Iman and Taqwa, because no matter how smart you are, you could be brilliant, but without the Iman and Taqwa, you'll find your life meaningless. You'll find, you know, like when the life hits you so hard, you may actually give up. You may actually find the rest of your life being useless, but with the Iman and Taqwa, believe me, inshallah, it will always lead you to the right way, to the right path, and remain and keep yourself remain relevant to the life anyway. And lastly, but not least, of course, successful leaders not only having the ability to lead. So if we want to be relevant, we should not only think of how are we going to lead, how are we going to be, to make impact, but we have to go beyond that. We need to also create legacy. We need to create legacy, but always, as I said, you know, I like to keep on challenging myself. I like to always keeping the bar higher. Beyond that, and Dr. Daud Bakar is a good example of this. What's bigger than leaders produce leaders? I'm sure many of you here, and many, you know, like as I said in my earlier session, Islamic finance is a very small industry. We are bound to meet each other quite often. And as I said, most of the people that we met, they are actually Iium graduate. Mostly know, of course, they all know Dr. Daud. So, well, we should not aim ourselves just to be leaders, but we should aim ourselves to be leaders who produce leaders. Live by example, set the bar high, set the objective, motivate and encourage people to do what we ourselves would like to do, because perpetuating the generation of legacies are much bigger than just creating a legacy. And when we do this, we'll be grateful that we have achieved the objective of our life, because as Allah said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, and liya'budun means you are actually saving and creating whatever and making use of your life in this world for your hereafter, and that will be the legacies, will be your amal jariyah that will actually benefit you even after our life, inshallah. With that, thank you, Iium, the alumni, and everyone for actually giving me this opportunity. And I hope we can have more of this event where we can actually exchange ideas. We can actually continue learning from our, mashallah, very respectful, very knowledgeable lecturers, professors and all. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam. Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Dr. Haria. And we come to our final discussant closing remark. Prof. Inayah, your 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Aslam. Within these 2 minutes, I would like to emphasize on the need to give a special and serious attention on the element of synergized intervention for humanizing human for sustainable development. In the context of education serve as al-ibadah. So the first task in transforming education at a global platform is, to me, by 3 stages. Number 1 is how to anchor on sound fundamental, as I learned before 30 years back, on fundamental knowledge of religion and knowledge and wisdom, al-alim wal-hakim. And then after that, we move on to the next level, creating enablers for the above, for these core values like culture, personality, education as ibadah, and productive communication as well. And finally, to sustain the development as according to the World Convention platform and the rule of law to be obeyed. And finally, to developing core values of being harmonious in life. Peace, not harmony, should be an element of generic skill for students. Tolerance, not bigotry. Mercy also, in contrast to non-violence. Love, not hatred, in the context of hubbu fillah, and assertiveness, fairness, no discrimination, as well as positive behavior. With that, I would like to thank to Alumni and UIM for inviting me to share a little bit on my experience, and I thank to the organizer for giving me this precious room for sharing, inshallah. Thank you, Prof. Islam.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much again, Prof. Inaya. We've heard from our discussants. I think it's only right that we give our speaker a few minutes to maybe give his summing up after listening to all the different inputs, maybe some closing remarks from Dr. Daud.
Thank you very much, Prof. Aslam, and thank you very much each and every respective discussant, Professor Dato' Dr. Inaya, Dr. Haria Hal Islami, Dr. Omar Jah, Brother Ali Kasa, and last but not least, Brother Ernest Yelman, for a very, out of the box kind of perspective, very transparent and constructive, a bit of, brevity that you have shown, that you are able to put your comment to the university, which is quite welcome. This is the new culture. We have to embrace the constructive comment and criticism, even from our stakeholders. I would deem alumni as the stakeholders of the university. For any organization, we have 4 ingredients or 4 verticals: the idea, the followers, and the leaders, and that include the alumni, the vehicle, the university, and the funding. You see the Prophet Muhammad SAW, the way he built up the civilization. He started with the Tawheed, the idea, the followers, the companion, the vehicle, the mosque, and the whole struggle, and the funding from Aisha, from Khadija, from Osman, Sayyidina Osman, and everything. So we need everything to make a good idea workable. Without which one of them is missing, we cannot build a civilization. So we need to be open and transparent. We need money, we need followers, we need idea, we need vehicle, and alumni is one of the stakeholders. Number 2, I think I have seen from your interaction, I can see from your face as well, your emotion, your ideas, your perspective, your commitment, not only from the colleagues who are speaking, but also beyond the session, among 100 and plus, viewers. Surely that you have the same emotion. You like this university. You wanted to contribute back to the university. You wanted to see the university growing all the way, as I mentioned, until the day of judgment, inshallah, as one of the pillars of Islam and defender of truth, defender of humanity, defender of, defender of sustainability, and many other things who will come in the future. I would like to take the challenge. All of you have said one thing in common. We need to make our university, if I can quote the small WhatsApp from Ali Kasa, that the Iium should become a global education and learning platform. I think we need to be more bullish. We need to go back to the higher learning institution. We need to ask from them very hard that we need to have more online program, because we are the bridge between Malaysia and OIC countries. So this is the only narrative that we can go back to them. We need to transform the university to become the OIC university, if you like, for the lack of a better word. So this is something that I wanted to put back to the management to take the challenge seriously, because people are hungry and we have a good name, we have good branding. It's a waste of not using our branding to help our own community worldwide. So this is something we have to put the team, the task force, and I really appreciate your frank opinion that they still should do more. And COVID or without COVID, we have no turning back. There's no U-turn. We have to move toward digital, moving forward, and this is the right time to do that. And if we don't do that, others will do. Others will do. It's a matter of time. So we started already, 37 years ago. Let us continue for the second phase. It's a new phase of the university, a leading platform. A platform now, it's not only a university, a platform, a marketplace for education. Last but not least, I have to thank everyone, Professor Aslam in particular, who managed the session well, the organizers who have been working very hard to put the technology and human together, And my last word for my colleagues here in the Senate Hall and the rest of the world, sometimes we tend to look into uncontrollable problems and issues in our society, whereas the controllable things are too many to fight for. So let us look into something which is controllable within our capacities, and let us strike and try to do something great on those who are controllable. There are many, but we tend to discuss in the classroom, even in some other forum, something which are uncontrollable. Forget about uncontrollable. Allah will interfere, Allah will help us, but our job is to look into elements which are controllable within our capacity. With that, thank you very much as a president of the university, as a colleague to many of you, as a former teacher to some of you, as a friend to all of you. This is our university. This is our university. It's our main Islamic Ummah University, not Malaysian university, not that university, Islamic Ummah University. We have to realize that meaning. We have to force the whole meaning of Ummatic University, make it happen, and we have to change the proportion of 14,000 foreign students, again, 64,000 Malaysian students to become a better ratio in the future, because we are an Islamic Ummah University, the jewel of the Islamic community. Again, thank you, and sorry for any shortcoming, and thank you, sorry for taking a bit longer time, more than the time allocated. I wish everyone a success and stay safe, and don't forget to contribute back to the university. Surely we're going to send you the account for you to help. And last but not least, I have to mention this one, Dr. Zailan is here. Perhaps in order to connect our university to the whole world, we need to invest in not only in digital, but also in virtual reality. Ali Kasa, you can help us. We need to have a center of VR, and with that center, as we speak, people can be in the same hall, Senate, as if they are within us, so we can see the real interaction as if they are in the theater, in the lecture room. And I don't know how much it costs, but we need to raise the fund to make the Islamic University first in Malaysia, perhaps the virtual reality in this university. Then you can be connected to the whole world. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Daud, for the closing comments. As the moderator, just a couple of tasks left. Firstly, to thank everybody for staying on even after 5. It's 5:30 now. And to all the participants, I think at the high point it was 198 I saw on the screen. With another 30 or so in the hall, we have about 220. It's a good start. Also on YouTube, right? So we have 501, yeah. So another 50 on YouTube. So I think we've started on a very good, footing. I think now we have to maintain it. Quite a number of the people on the chat were saying they hope that we continue having these programs, continue to keep in contact with everybody, and also I think the programs that we have potential. Yeah, we have 100,000, 90,000+ alumni. Many of them can be resource people for our programs all over the world. So in addition to what I think mentioned by Dr. Daud about going and getting our university programs online, we need to also look at our maybe training modules, the skill courses, the ones that go down to the to the public. That's another way to make IIUM alumni visible, and I think that's maybe what we want to do. Lastly, I just like to apologize. I know as moderator should have been a bit more strict, but I really do not know how to control the the computer technology. Usually if it was face-to-face, 3 minutes, we will tell people you have 3 minutes or 2 minutes. Anyway, we've gone across by about 35 minutes. Apologies to everyone, but I think we've had a very wonderful session. I look forward to being present as a participant maybe in the next webinar, which I hope Alumni Relations Unit will inform. You want to say anything now, Dr. Azam, or? Okay, the announcement will come later. Please wait for the announcement, email or WhatsApp. So with that, once again, thank you all very much. we come to the end of the session. I pass it back to, is it Sister Aisha? Yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
On behalf of the Alumni Relations Division, I would like to thank, of course, first of all, Dato' Daud, Prof. Aslam, and also our 5 discussants. I would just like to take this opportunity to inform you that for the first time, the university will be introducing the Iium Alumni Day. So effective this year, we will celebrate Iium Alumni Day on the 10th of October to commemorate the first convocation that was held on 10 October 1987. We had wanted to make it big for the inaugural celebration, but unfortunately due to COVID, we will have to do a small one this year. So please watch out for the announcement, and to all the alumni, we send you our salam, and we look forward to keeping in touch with all of you. With that note, shukran jazilan, ma'as-salama wa ila liqa.
Thank you all of you.
Thank you all.
Jazakumullah khair from your state.
Syukran. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Everyone, have a good day. Jazakumullah khair.